Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mentally Strong Mums. And we have our return guest, Sky Blue. Well, we call her Blue. And it's a part of our intimacy and sex and connection. And so, if you didn't listen to our last podcast, I just want to quickly introduce Blue to you. So, she's a compassionate psychotherapist who has over a decade of experience working with individuals in mental health and learning strategies and settings. So she believes as human, we all have an innate ability to grow and change by attending to the mind, body, spirit, sexual, and social selves. And she definitely aligns with all of my theories and principles. And as humans, we need to be able to be having joy and pleasure, and not just sexually, but in all aspects of our lives. So she's definitely here to help understand, especially mums, busy women, to be able to get back on track. And for Blue, she also does couples and individuals and couples relationships, and it's all online. So even if she's not in your city, you're able to go and see her anyway. She also specializes in LGBTQIA2 plus. I'm dyslexic, so those acronyms always get me right. And then especially with sex therapy. So welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me. Hi, Elena. Hi, everybody.
Yay.
Mhm.
So today I'm just going to go straight in it, but just because I always love our conversations, we're always on the same page as well as increasing intimacy and connection and desire. So when we talk about desire, especially for women, especially for mums, what would potential reasons for low desire and why sometimes if you feel like you don't have desire, you feel like there's something wrong with you or you're broken, right?
Mhm. Yeah, those are very common words that I hear.
Mm.
And before I answer your awesome question, I just wanted to clarify for the folks listening that right now I'm specifically working with women who want to feel sexually empowered, who want to increase their desire for sex and intimacy.
Yay.
And they might be feeling broken, they might be feeling exhausted or touched out, but there's a part of them that really wants that
Mm.
sexual empowerment and to feel more desire. So back to your question, which was like, can you
It
repeat it
was
for me?
reasons for low desire.
Reason, yeah, okay. There's so many reasons that we might experience low desire. And I just want to normalize it because it is so common and it's just not something that we talk about very often in society because we might feel broken or because we're surrounded by messages and media that's telling us that we should feel turned on
Mm.
and ready to have sex at any moment.
Mm.
And if you don't feel that way, then there's something wrong with you.
Mm.
And I'm here to say that there's nothing wrong with you.
Yay.
Yeah. So, what are the reasons? There could be so many things. You're you're just so exhausted because you have so many things on your plate,
Yes.
right? For the for the people listening to this, you're probably a mom.
Mm.
You have little ones at home. You're doing all the things for your family.
Mm.
You're keeping a roof over your heads. Maybe you'll also have a job. Like that's so much responsibility and so much caring and so much nurturing that you're doing.
Mm.
So, in other words, you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're exhausted and probably really tapped out.
Mm.
And when we live in a body where we're not getting rejuvenated and
Mm.
our nervous system might be activated, like,
Mm.
we feel kind of fried, like, zzz,
Mm. Mm.
we have no capacity or
Mm.
low capacity
Mm.
for intimacy and connection.
I love that word that you use. I have no capacity for rejuvenation. And I think that's a beautiful representation of a lot of mums with the mental load, with the kids, with the work, with the husband. Touched out, you're constantly nurturing, you're constantly putting everyone else's needs above yours. But exactly as you said, if I have no capacity or the luxury of time to be able to rejuvenate myself, it's like I'm always on empty.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah. So I'd say those are the biggest reasons, but there can be other reasons too. Like one reason I hear often might be about hormones.
mm, mm.
If you're in the age range of perimenopause or menopause, like
Yeah.
hormones are a real thing,
Mm.
right? And they do affect how we feel and they do affect our libido.
Yes.
So if you're wondering if that's you, I recommend going and seeing your like medical provider and getting some tests done. And if you're open to hormone therapy, that could be really helpful, not just for libido, but
Mm,
having energy, feeling better, improving your mental health
mm, mm,
as well.
mm,
Um, so hormones are totally a real thing.
mm,
Uh, if it's not hormones, though, it could be other things like the lack of emotional connection in your relationship that can affect your libido.
mm, mm.
Not feeling emotionally safe, seen, or heard in your relationship, that
Yeah.
can totally tank your libido.
And I love that you mentioned that because the one of my previous episodes, 2 episodes ago, was safety and intimacy when it comes to women and what women actually need to feel safe and secure to be open to sex. So I think that episode that I did is complementary to this one because this one is about the desire for sex, right? And so when we talk about the desire for sex, what are the desire types?
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so this is a really exciting topic
Yes.
because so few people know what this even is and they don't understand it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to tell you more about this, and you can read this awesome book called Come As You Are by
Um,
Emily Nagoski, and she
yes.
really fleshes this out scientifically in her book.
Yeah.
Um, and so the two types of desire,
Mm,
let me preface this a little bit by saying in media and in society and in porn,
mm,
we usually see and hear about sex through the lens of a more male type of desire.
mm,
So what I mean by that is it's more of spontaneous.
mm,
So that's the first type of desire, spontaneous desire.
mm,
So
mm.
not all men feel this way and not all women don't feel this way. It's not black and white, but predominantly male. So the metaphor I like to use here is imagine that you have a lighter and you're going to light a cigarette. So you flick it on, psh, there's a flame.
Yes.
That's like spontaneous desire. So if we are exposed to a certain type of stimuli, we see something, hear something, taste, smell, touch something, and our brain says, "Ooh, I like that. Ooh, that's kind of sexy. That turns me on." And then flick, your flame is on.
Yes.
Like spontaneous desire.
Mm, mm. That's
And that's what we
exciting.
see.
That also aligns
Mhm.
with the feminine because it's the what I'm available for. I want to be spontaneous. I want to be able to be free. I don't want schedules. I don't want to have I don't want that pressure of having sex every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Or if kids are there, then
Mhm.
obviously 9 p.m. It's too much. I want that feminine, that spontaneity, and I want the flame to be authentic, to be able to have that mutual benefit desire.
Mhm.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you might feel more spontaneous desire depending on where you're at in your cycle
Yes.
as a woman.
Mm.
So I think the first week and the second week, you have higher levels of estrogen. And when you're ovulating, you might feel more spontaneous desire.
Mm, mm,
And if you do, great. If you don't panic.
mm.
There's nothing wrong with you. There's another type of desire I haven't talked about yet.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So the second type of desire is called responsive desire.
great.
Yes. And so instead of the flicking of the lighter, think of it as I'm building a campfire.
Mm,
So when you build a campfire, you have to first get your little kindling or your dry grass and you put it in the middle. And
mm,
then you get the little sticks and you kind of put them on top of each other. And then the bigger sticks. And then you light the kindling and blow on it, get the spark going, get the smoke to rise, and then it will grow and grow
mm,
until
mm,
you have a fire.
mm,
So responsive desire is like that. You
mm,
get exposed to a stimuli,
mm,
something you hear, see, taste, touch, feel,
mm,
and then a part of your mind might go, do I want that or not?
mm,
Let's explore. Let's get curious to see if I want more of that.
mm, mm.
And to see if your flame can grow. So in real life, that might look like I'm going to take a nice bath and shave my legs with no kids around,
Yes.
play some music, light a candle, and allow myself 30 minutes to just get into my body and see if I feel sensual.
Mm,
And then maybe my partner and I can like do sensual massages together and see if does that get my flame going.
mm, mm,
So you need a little bit more time, a little bit more stimuli to allow that to grow.
mm. I
Does that
love
make
that
sense?
because that normalizes instead of just going in there, getting it over and done with, especially from that masculine perspective, sometimes they just want to get in, and let's start it, right? But the
Mhm.
difference in the desire, especially for the feminine and especially for the mum with decision fatigue and the mental load of everything and all the pressure, and even I can't relax because I can even still hear those bloody kids in the background. Do you know? But at
Mhm.
least if you can normalize, listen, you've got to almost relax your body, regulate your nervous system, do things in terms of joy and pleasure for you, such as taking a bath or doing something nice, and then rebuilding that, especially with the kindling, rebuilding that connection with your partner. So the sensual massage. There's no pressure for sex. Just because we're having a sexual massage doesn't mean that it should lead to sex. So
Mhm.
understanding those expectations as well, that even after the sensual massage, if I still feel like my desire isn't there, I should be in a respectful relationship where I don't feel pressured with the other person. Well, you've done this and I've done this, therefore I expect this. Do you know?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Mm,
such an important point. So so maybe you're thinking, wow, maybe I'm a more responsive desire person.
yes.
Maybe I just need a little bit longer to feel turned on or aroused or interested in intimacy and sex.
Mm,
And if that's you, that's great. And if you're a partner listening, knowing that like slowing down
mm,
and doing this yummy practice with your partner is also good for you.
mm.
And knowing that it doesn't have to have an end goal.
Yes.
If we can take the pressure off
Yes.
and just see where this intimacy and connection goes,
Mm,
that can be so fulfilling and
mm.
satisfying for both of you.
It is, because then it can lead to exploration. It can lead to
Mhm.
then conversation and safety about what I want to try, what I don't want to try. Even this thing about using words during things, harder, softer, faster, slower, because then you can
Mhm.
articulate what you want. So you're actually creating a safe, intimate environment for desire. And exactly as you said, no expectations, no pressure. It's
Mhm.
it, you know, so fabulous.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. This
mm,
creates a lot of safety when we take the pressure off
mm, mm,
and we can think. sex can be anything I want it to be.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be orgasms or penetration. It can
Mm,
be if that's what you want, but that's not the end goal.
mm. And it's funny about that pressure because when I work with couples as well, some of the common themes is a woman feels pressure to be able to have increase the frequency of sex, but men sometimes put the pressure on themselves that they need to make their partner orgasm. And if they can't do that, then they've failed, you know? So it's
Mm.
understanding as well in terms of desire for both parties that, especially in that kind of relationship we're taking the pressure off. It's not your responsibility to make the other person orgasm, and it's not her responsibility to completely commit to increasing frequency. When if we can take all the pressure off, understand desire, what kind of desire are you from those two that you've mentioned? We can understand each other better, increasing safety, increasing communication spontaneity, which can also lead to exploration and then fun and then, you know?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
Mm,
This is making me think about how a lot of people say, I want intimacy and sex to be spontaneous.
yes,
And yes, it can be super fun and hot when things are spontaneous. And things are usually like that at the beginning of a relationship because things are new.
yes,
This person is new.
yes,
We're full of endorphins and it
yes,
is super exciting and hot.
mm,
And and so it's more spontaneous just naturally.
mm,
Now, as relationships go on and they're a little bit more longer term,
mm,
things might feel less spontaneous and people get upset about that.
mm,
But I want you to know that, like, A, that's normal. And B, if you think about when you were dating,
mm,
it might not have been as spontaneous as you thought.
yes,
Because if you thought, I'm going on a date with this person in 2 days, then you think about what are you going to wear? What do you want to smell like?
mm,
Might fantasize about how do I want to kiss this person? What do I want to do with them in bed? How do
mm,
I want to feel?
mm,
So you actually put a lot of thought, time, and effort into that date.
mm.
Does that make sense? It wasn't actually as spontaneous as you might have thought it was.
No, it's good to put that into perspective, because sometimes it feels like the grass is greener on the other
Mm.
side, right? But really, the grass is greener where you water it. And if you can understand in the beginning, even it's this constant evolution of our relationship. And sometimes we think in our honeymoon phase that was the best. And then obviously life happens, we increase the kids or the work or the homes or the loans or the financial stuff, but it's still, we need to be able to always put things into perspective, like put time into our relationship. We need to have pleasure and joy and feel safe for both parties. And especially, as you said, to be able to understand what kind of desire you have and to be able to
Mhm.
completely take that pressure off. So I know
Mhm.
that with all the work that you've done, especially with all couple sex and intimacy. So, what is your six-step method for getting from a low desire when you avoid intimacy to then crave intimacy, which is therefore sexual empowerment?
Mm. Great question.
Hmm.
So currently, I'm focusing on helping women achieve sexual empowerment and have
Mm,
better sex and intimacy in their relationships. And I created this six-step method.
mm,
So the first step, I call it revival,
mm,
reviving the connection with your body and your experience of pleasure.
mm,
Because most likely, especially if you're a mom, you might feel real disconnected from your body and your experience of joy and
mm,
pleasure because you might be real touched out and you might be just so exhausted. You're not really thinking about your own physical needs or desires.
mm.
So that's the first step. That's where
That
I would
is,
start.
yes. Yeah. And what's step
Mhm.
number two?
Step number two. Reawakening is what I call
Mm,
it. So learning more about these societal messages that
mm,
might be dampening your experience of pleasure in your body, pleasure
mm,
during sex,
mm, mm,
learning more about desire types and how to turn your desire type on,
mm,
like
mm,
a unique way to turn that on.
mm.
That's the second step of reawakening.
Mm. It's good that you did mention societal messaging because Australia, especially in Australian culture, growing up a lot of the time, sometimes we've had messages such as you're there only to pleasure the man. So
Hmm.
men are there, and it's understanding that I also
Mm.
need to be valid in the relationship. What kind of relationship do I want to have? As well as understanding my value as a woman, especially if you've been raised in a society or culture that women sometimes feel less value than a man, especially in a romantic relationship. And you're just there for me. And if you're not going to give it, even those messages that I hear quite frequently in Australia, you, well, if you're not going to give sex to me, then I'm not going to get it from anyone else. So just give it, you know what I mean? So, and how that influences how you feel about yourself and your autonomy in the relationship. So that's a really powerful tool for your step
Hmm.
number two.
Absolutely. And I totally relate to this as a woman in the USA. We have very similar messages.
Mm,
And I grew up in a Christian household, so I got a lot of those messages around, giving sex to your husband or your
yes,
partner.
yes.
Yeah, and I say that is not true. So step number two is reawakening within your own story of pleasure and like
Mm,
owning that.
mm. Wonderful.
Yeah.
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 Step
And then
number
the
three.
step, yes. So the third step is reclaiming your your understanding of pleasure
Mm,
and what it means. Some people kind of feel icky,
mm,
even with the word pleasure, because
mm,
they associate it with just sex.
mm, mm.
And I'm saying you can experience pleasure in and out of the bedroom,
Yes,
and it is your birthright
yes.
to feel that in and out of the bedroom.
Mm, mm.
Um, and so we do this by lots and lots of education and pleasure-focused sex education.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I've always got this book ready for when I give to clients. It's called Tantric
Oh.
Orgasms for Women. And this book is also exactly what you were just saying then, as well as the book that you suggested before, Come As You Are, because
Uh-huh.
it just re-educates you about your body, about what happens, about your hormones, about societal messages, so that you can then get the foundation of relearning your gender, what you want, what you need, and being comfortable with your own body as opposed to, ooh, you know?
Yes, yeah. So that, the message we might have received is that women who are sexual or who feel good in their body or want people to look at their body
Yes,
are, they're bad. They're sluts.
yes,
They're going to hell.
yeah,
That's what something I heard a lot, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'm saying we can reclaim that. We can reclaim our birthright of pleasure.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, we
Of
have
course.
this one life. Why would you deprive yourself of pleasure and joy and happiness and fun and
Mhm.
spontaneity, and actually loving and accepting yourself for who you are and your gender and
Mhm.
all of your parts. Mm.
I love that. All of your parts.
All of your parts. Yes. What's number four?
Four is to reignite the fire inside of yourself by exploring your unique eroticism and your unique fantasies.
Mm,
So, reigniting the fire, finding out what your turn-ons are and the things that excite you.
mm,
And this can be in and out of the bedroom.
mm. That's awesome because that's almost from my lens, a holistic perspective. Because if you can find pleasure and joy in the everyday things in your life, being in that feminine, being spontaneous, being able to accept, receive, and surrender to joy, and then you're more able to be able to have that playful nature within the bedroom. Or even if you want to try, a bit of dominatrix nature within the
Mhm.
bedroom and understanding what brings you joy, not just specifically, but also that playfulness within all of us day to day. So that's fabulous.
Yeah, I love this one because this is another place where we might feel like, ooh, I'm not supposed to have those types of thoughts.
Mm, mm.
And that keeps us from celebrating the pleasure in our lives and in our body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So number 5 is radiating your power.
Yes. Wait. Yes,
Yeah.
queen. Right?
Yes,
Radiate your
radiating our
power.
power. Yes.
Yeah.
So this step is all about relearning that you have the right to
Mm.
say no
Yes.
to anything, but in this case, you can say no to any types of intimacy, touch, or sex that you don't want.
Mm.
Because a lot of us are conditioned that we can't say that to our husband or our partner, and we are going to get in trouble or they're going to get upset. And in some cases, sadly, that might be true, but
Yes, it's
it's
like a
okay.
perceived negative consequence if I say no.
Yeah.
And the negative consequence can look like they're sulking or there's passive aggressive comments or they leave the house or then they completely ignore me and stonewall me. And so when
Mhm.
that happens, that's really sad because it can almost condition you. I can't, if I say no, then I am going to be met with a negative consequence, whether that's real or whether it's perceived, right? But if that's how I feel, I then don't feel safe. And so, especially then, I want to be able to radiate my power in my
Mhm.
voice and knowing that if I still feel that or I have a romantic relationship and my partner makes me feel that way, knowing to your boundaries to be strong enough within yourself to be able to understand what's a healthy relationship and what's not, maybe communicating or even going to a therapist like Blue to be able to discuss this openly so the other person knows what their behavior is having on you. Do you know? Because if they're not even aware of it, that if they're not self-aware, that behavior they're having is producing a negative consequence, therefore not wanting them to have sex with you at all. If they were maybe self-aware of that, then they wouldn't do it. They would know what to replace that with instead. So that's also an empowering radiate your power to know how to be able to move forward in emotionally intelligent and emotionally mature relationships.
So true. And I recognize this can feel complicated and a little
Mm.
sticky,
Yeah.
but what I tell women who I work with is that you have the right to say no if your partner gets upset or throws a fit or sulks, whatever,
Mm.
he can deal with it.
That's
You
his.
are not responsible for that.
Mm. Which is difficult for a lot of women because we have wombs, we are nurturers. So sometimes we feel like if our partner's having a negative emotion, it's our job to be able to nurture them until they're back. And you're like, well, are you doing that at the detriment of you, where their needs are now more important than your needs? So then you give in. So it's understanding that fine balance as well about how you feel your role is within the relationship and if your biology is actually betraying you.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I just want to
Mm.
say I get it because I used to feel terrified.
Yes.
Disappointing my partner,
Yeah.
saying no. I was so scared.
Mm.
Um, so I know what that is like, and I'm on the other side of that now, and I can tell you it feels a lot better
Yay. That's
to
awesome.
be,
Because it's
yeah.
nice that you can say that you've been there, that you've been in relationships where you felt like you haven't got a voice and you've been
Mm.
able to have that self-worth and self respect to keep on not giving up on yourself and practicing. and then you're in a place where you're like, well, this, I'm not going to tolerate this. So fabulous. Well done.
Mm,
Because that
thank you so
normalizes it
much.
for our listeners, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And so just to recap, five is radiating your power, practicing consent. You
Mm.
have the right to say no and to set boundaries and
Yes.
communicate that. And then the last step in this process is to revel in your sexual empowerment.
Yay.
Yeah, exploring mind-blowing orgasms, exploring your desires within your relationship, communicating them, and
Mm,
then if it's, something you want to do, exploring self-pleasure.
mm. I think that's wonderful. Because if you don't even want to have sex with you,
Mm.
then what's going on? So understanding self-pleasure, what you want, what you need, being able to grow and evolve and having that genuine connection with yourself. So that's
Mhm.
really important. So I'm happy that you're able to have these beautiful 6 steps to be able to increasing your own desire and empowerment and normalizing
Mhm.
women wanting pleasure, but it to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me share that with you.
No, it was wonderful. So if people that are listening to this find it so amazing what you're saying and they want to be able to contact you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so if any woman wants to be in my universe, what I recommend is finding me on Facebook, Intimacy with Blue.
Mm,
And on that professional page, Intimacy with Blue, you can find a link to my free Facebook community where I give free coaching, I answer your questions, I do
mm,
Facebook Lives.
mm,
Um, so you'll get a lot of like personal support from me in that group.
that sounds amazing because then at least people that want to do that and join that Facebook group can build that connection with you and then be able to have potentially one-on-one sessions specific
Yeah.
about their situation to have strategies and healing. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, no
Cool.
worries.
And
Yeah,
your
so
website is Sky Blue Therapy, SKYEBLU Therapy.
actually my website for women right now is intimacywithblue.com.
Oh, well, I'm happy that we did that then. Hey,
Yeah.
that's a really good clarification to have. Intimacy with Blue.
Intimacywithblue.com and you can find me on Facebook.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was really nice being able to reconnect, and we always learn so much more. And I love talking about sex and intimacy. So I
Oh,
appreciate
great.
everything.
Thank you, Elena. So good to see you. Thanks, everybody. Hope to connect with you on Facebook.
Yay, can't wait. All right, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.